What is up, you guys? My name is Darren, and welcome to my channel. This is my first video as of right now, and I just wanted to share with you guys some travel stories. So as a heads up, this is a part of a much larger story, but this was whenever I met Kevin Smith and the Clerks boys for the first time. In the background, you got your Call of Duty. Sit back in, strap yourselves in. You got yourselves a wild ride. Just a heads up, this is, as I mentioned, a part of a much bigger story, so look out for some other videos giving you guys an idea of this whole travel experience in itself. But I thought this would be probably the most interesting part. So, let's start off whenever I got to Philadelphia. I'm going to throw in a little bit of Philadelphia in here. Now, really, it should be a part of its own story itself, but let's go ahead and just skip right there. So to fill you guys in, I went on this trip with my girlfriend up into the Northeast from Texas. We started in Texas, drove a Prius all the way into the Northeast. This was over about a course of a week from when we left to when we got home. We left from Texas. We got up into the Northeast. We crossed over from Vermont into Montreal, where it was all French, and then went from there into Ottawa, then Toronto, then back into Michigan, south, straight south. Here is the story. This takes place when we were in Philadelphia. Now, we rolled up into Philadelphia, I believe I want to say it was pretty late. It wasn't late, but it was probably 7 o'clock or so, I would say, 6 o'clock. We just got back from the National Cemetery, and we didn't know our Airbnb was smack dab right in the middle of Kensington, which, if you're not familiar, Kensington is the drug capital of the United States right now. This is where you're going to find a lot of drugs, including, but not restricted to, fentanyl, trank, heroin, probably a bunch of meth. This was like the capital. When you get there, it's like homeless city. When you get there, it's all homeless people in tents. And we literally walked up to this family in a circle, smoking some weed. Now, that doesn't sound so bad. But when you take into account that, like, everybody else around us was looking like a heroin addict, it doesn't exactly help. So we roll up and we ask them, "Hey, is the car safe here?" And then they tell us, they're like, "Yeah, it's safe there. Don't worry. Like, there's cameras all around here." So then we go into the Airbnb. As we're getting out of the car, we're like, "Hey, we didn't pull up enough," and it was quite a walk. So we pulled the car a little bit further up. We got into the Airbnb, up to the door, like not inside of the Airbnb, but we got outside of the door. And then at that door, it looked pretty confusing to get in there. We had to put in this code and everything. The security was top notch, or so we thought. So we got in there, and our room was in the basement. It's in the basement of all places. We got into the basement, and then we were bringing our stuff up, and then this lady looked like she was cracked out of her mind. Woo. Or at least she looked like she had sobered up recently. She looked like she had been cracked out of her mind. That's a better thing to say, because I don't think she was actually high in that moment. But she was still talking incredibly fast. She came in and she introduced herself and all, and telling us about how terrible the area that we chose was to be in Kensington. Now, in this basement, there were 3 rooms, which, you have to go through this really nice area. You have to go through there, and then you find this door that goes down to the basement, and that's whenever it's a little sketchy. Because all the signal cuts out, the Wi-Fi is very hit and miss, very bad, in fact. There's one room. It was a black guy. He seemed like that he was very classy. He seemed like he was in the same boat as us, like, why did I book this place? But then, as I mentioned, we got this little skinny drug addict girl in the other room, and she's all talking really fast and telling us stuff about, like, "Oh, you never know, you can't trust people around here. They're gonna stab you in the back." And so we're down there trying to not talk to her very much, to be honest with you. Downstairs we go to sleep and all after some Philly cheesesteaks, which we DoorDash, which were pretty good. They weren't half bad. They were not half bad Philly cheesesteaks. We just couldn't walk that, what was it, mile or two all the way over to the Philly cheesesteak place because, as I mentioned, this place was incredibly sketchy. We did not want to be out. So we went to sleep. Then we got up, and my girlfriend found out she has to take her final exam. I had 2 tickets to go see Kevin Smith. I had those 2 tickets over for Jersey, which is an hour and a half away. And I was incredibly sad. I was bummed out of my mind, Like, I got to leave my girlfriend here to take her final exam on her computer for her online class. Oh, man. I wasn't worried that she was going to be in danger or anything. But come to find out, she later on, while I was gone, she did a DoorDash, and the guy just ended up walking right in. Turns out there wasn't very much security there at all. So I feel a little bit regretful of that. But anyway, we got up. I got my stuff all together. She was getting ready to take her exam. It was about 11 o'clock or so, I believe, maybe. Could have been like 1 o'clock. It was in the middle of the day. I left from there after seeing some sketchy cleaning people. And yeah, I ended up leaving. Went an hour and a half away over to Jersey. I got to Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash. Oh boy, the Secret Stash. Ooh, 6 minutes in, I'm just now getting a Jay and Silent Bob, right? Oh man, I believe I paid $2 to park maybe a block away. I walked from that block, could have been 2 blocks. I walked from there all the way over to the Secret Stash, and I had just been listening to some Kevin Smith talking to Bert Kreischer at podcasts, and he was talking about all these movies that were keeping his movie theater going, which is where I was going. What I was doing was I was going to after the Secret Stash, I was going to the Clerks animated series TV marathon, sorry. And whenever I got to the stash, I was looking at some stuff. I made some purchases. I saw Mike Zampic from Comic Book Men. I saw some stuff from Kevin's movies. It was absolutely amazing. You saw all these props and all. But the one really cool thing that I heard was, I believe I was looking at posters or something. They were trying to sell me on these really expensive posters, which I bought, actually. They're really cool. One in a lifetime thing. It was just for that event. What was really cool and get ready for it. It's going to knock you guys' socks off. This lady that's behind the counter said that Kevin was in there a few hours ago and had been doing some photo ops, right? And he said he was going to show the Schumacher cut of Batman Forever. Yep, that's right. I was in the audience for one of the only showings of Batman Forever that has ever been done. Whenever that we were actually about to watch it, a lot of people were saying, we are the first people since Warner Brothers executives to have watched this movie. Oh, dear Jesus. That was absolutely a once-in-a-lifetime thing if I've ever seen it. As of the recording of this video, which is nearly a year later, no one has still seen it. I believe that is the only showing of that film that has ever been done. That's how extreme that is. Okay, so I made some purchases, and I went down to the movie theater. I got there an hour or so early. The line was around the block. It was so far back. Good Lord, it was very far back. I don't know. I couldn't even tell you how far back it was, but it was at least, like, I would say a block or two, but I can't say it because I think I was only really covering one block. But then it was just so far back, though. I haven't been in a line that long since I went to the opening of In-N-Out Burger near the Houston area. Oh, man. So I got there. I waited in the line. I saw a bunch of people there. Some people that potentially were to be big Kevin Smith fans. I would hope so. I really hope so. But there were definitely quite a few people there. I mentioned that there was a good chance that we were going to see the Batman Forever Schumacher cut to somebody, and they're like, "Oh, really? Yeah." So they blew it off. It was weird. I didn't get it. I still don't get it. Maybe they just don't like Batman. Maybe they just didn't understand what a big deal that is. But so We got into the movie theater, and everybody was getting popcorn, choosing spots. We scanned our tickets. I sat down in front of this really overweight lady in a wheelchair, and I say that as respectful as possible because she's a very nice person. But I sat in that area. I struck up a conversation with a man that said that he drove from, I believe, Philly to his, I want to say, Airbnb, and then drove from there. I was like, wow, I just drove from Philly too. I take that back. He came from Pennsylvania, but it's the same area. So I didn't realize this, but I signed up for the Clerks animated series marathon, right? Well, that wasn't what was happening. For the next 2 hours, I sat through an amazing auction that had to do with View Askew Universe stuff. Now, this was fantastic. I absolutely loved all this. The problem was I didn't have very much. I did have money, but I didn't have that much money to spend on just, this and that. For example, they were selling jerseys that had his autograph that he had worn for like $200-$300. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I would love for that. I was so close to getting a 3X and just gaining some weight, I didn't do that, but I thought about it. Whenever I say I was so close, I mean I actually raised my hand. It was like, I said the amount. I can't remember how much it was. I think I said $370 for a what was it? It was an award for Clerks that Kevin won back in 1994 at the Houston Film Festival. Can you guys believe it? The stars aligned perfect. The stars aligned better than anything could have ever lined up ever. Why is that? Because I am from the Houston area, and I drove 24 hours across the country to Kevin's movie theater. I said $370, something like that. And Kevin was like, oh, $370. And then some guy said $400. That was it. I got beat. I was devastated. I said, this was meant for me. I should have got it. On the bright side, I didn't spend an extra $400. I'm very happy about that. But the stars aligned for me, and I blew it. Well, let me tell you guys. This gets better. That's just a low point. It gets better because we watched the movies, of course. And, oh, man, in between each episode, there was a Q&A. First one had Brian and Jeff, who played two guys from Clerks. And let me tell you guys, the first thing that happened for the Q... Well, not the first, but during the first Q&A is what I'm trying to say. I asked them a question. I just wanted to, I wanted to see what it'd be like to ask two of my heroes a question. I asked Brian and Jeff. I asked them how they felt, whenever the show premiered. Did they know it was going to get canceled or something like that? And anyway, I'm not going to bore you guys with the answer, but they had this premiere party and all, and said that Kevin made a cake, and it was the most bittersweet cake they've ever eaten. That's a rundown. But yeah, I got an answer from them. It was really cool. But then whenever Kevin came on after, I believe, the second, third episode, Kevin laid down a big bombshell for us. Kevin told us that he's working on a Clerks musical with Rivers Cuomo of Weezer. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, which you probably don't because, you just stumbled upon my YouTube channel. But I am an absolute huge Weezer fan and Kevin Smith fan. That is absolutely the greatest possible news I could have got, except for if he said, oh, I'm working with Green Day. Well, this was definitely second in my book. And oh my God. That was some of the biggest news I've ever had. A few minutes later, could have been, I don't know, could have been during the next Q&A, to be honest with you. I asked Kevin. I said, so I'm a big Weezer fan. You can see it on my shirt. I was wearing a Weezer shirt. I'm a big Weezer fan, right? And he just looked at me nodding like, mm-hmm. So I'm telling him, like, so you have, I was just watching this on the way here, but on Conan, I saw that you guys have, it was a song by Weezer from Pinkerton and a clip from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I didn't even know it was in there. I was telling him that, and he was like, oh, that wasn't us. That was Conan, But, or Jay and Silent Bob. Not Jay and Silent Bob, sorry. Jay Leno, rather. Anyway, I finished off my question. I was like, but wait, what I'm getting at here is this. Can you elaborate more on this musical that's with Rivers Cuomo? Like, you like to work with them. What's happening here? He's like, oh, yeah, he's got 6 songs finished for the album. Not for the album, for the musical. And this is going to premiere in Britain and all this. Like, whenever that the copyright is up in, like, 6 years, like 2030. It blew my mind, and my exact words to him, and I hate to repeat myself twice, but my exact words to him were, I'm such a huge Kevin Smith fan and Weezer fan that whenever you said that you're working with Rivers Cuomo, that made me come in my pants, and everybody laughed. What a moment. I made Kevin Smith laugh. That was absolutely amazing. Wow. Anyway, one really vivid memory I have is I went to the restroom, and while I was leaving during a showing of one of the episodes, I passed by Jeff Anderson, and Jeff Anderson's sitting there on a box. He's looking up at the screen. He's got his lips kind of pursed, if that's the word, like he's biting on his lips, like I'm kind of bored, And it looks like he's kind of halfway crying, maybe he's sleepy, I'm not sure. Well, that's kind of important. Don't forget about that, because I will get back to that in a later video. But I remember that look that he had on his face, and I was wondering to myself, is he incredibly bored? Or is he looking up at the screen like, wow, we're big, we made it, this is something I did, and I'm successful and highly loved by millions of people. I got my answer later on, but I'll go back to that way later on in the future. So, look out for that video to get that piece of information. Anyway, so it was finally time for the photo ops. I lined up and for the photo op and all, made a friend, added them on Facebook. Nice guy. Turns out he's actually a teacher. It was hard for him to get a job in the Jersey area. We're moving on in the line, going up one by one by one by one. Finally, it's me next. It's me, time to go up to Kevin. And, it's 2 a.m. at this point. What a feeling. Kevin's finishing up his picture with the next guy. My heart's beating 100 miles an hour. I walked up to Kevin, and I believe I gave him a hug. He gave me a hug, and he said something like, hey man, he did his Kevin Smith thing, and I'm like, hey, I drove, I came all the way from Texas for this. And he said, you came all the way from Texas for this? And I said, yeah, all the way from Texas. It was about 24 hours. He said, you drove? And oh my God, what a feeling that is. What a feeling that is that my hero looked at me and said, you drove? Like, he was so impressed with me. It was so self-validating. Or that's not even the way you say that. It was so validating for me. It made me feel so validated. What a moment. What a moment. We took our pictures. And then here's where I'm going to give you guys a teaser of the next video. But we took our pictures and all. And then Kevin, he was saying goodbye and all. And I'm like, I'll see you guys in a few months in Shreveport, which is in Louisiana. Oh, man. Kevin looked at Brian. He was like, are you going to be in Shreveport? Brian said, yeah, I'll be in Shreveport. So I was like, yeah, I'll see you guys in Shreveport. He's going to be there too. Absolutely. And Jeff was going too, of course. So look out for the next video, guys, where I'm going to be telling you guys about how that I met Kevin, Brian, and Jay for the second time. And I don't want to give anything away, but long story short, they did me an incredible favor, and one of the best moments of my life happened that day. To finish the story up with probably, potentially for you guys, being the most interesting part, assuming what you're a fan of the most. But after I walked away from them, I went and sat back in my seat for a little bit, and then Kevin got back on the stage, and he was like, we're going to show a different movie. I can't tell you what it is because I don't know, but it's going to be on the screen. Stick around, kids. Wait for what it is. And anyway, it's obviously Batman. So tons of people already gone. They cleaned up the theater. I talked about with some people out in the foyer, if that's what you call it, like where you buy popcorn. I talked with some people out there, and they were like, "Yeah, we're the first people since Warner Bros. Executives to watch this," except for Kevin, of course. And that feels like I guess it's like going to the Bohemian Grove, but not feeling guilty. It's absolutely incredible being so exclusive. It's amazing. So they threw on the Batman Forever Schumacher cut of the film. And it was about 4 a.m. at that point, 3:30 or so. And all I could think was, I'm in an Airbnb and I got to check out in a few hours. I had to check out by like 10, 11, And I can't stay here much longer. I could just power through as much as I can, but I can't be here that much longer. Plus, my girlfriend's in a terrible part of Philadelphia, probably trying to sleep. Batman Forever goes on for a while. They have some additional stuff like an alternate opening, some footage that's more psychological based, like you see inside of Bruce's head when he's knocked out and his guilt of his parents dying and all that. And you can just look that up on Google. I'm not going to talk all about that, but it's really cool being able to see what so many people haven't. And it was definitely a Schumacher cut because the scenes that weren't in the original film, they were a lot more grainy, and it had a timer going. And anyway, I was told by many people that all the new footage was in the first hour or so anyway. So I wasn't really missing much. I've seen Batman Forever before. So about an hour or 15 in, right after some new footage, I can't remember what it was, but after some new footage, I ended up leaving. And I talked to the theater owner for just a minute, or rather the theater manager, I believe it was. It was a big guy. I talked to him for a minute, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go. It's 4 a.m. I went to my car. So while walking down that long street of New Jersey at like 4 or 5 in the morning, with all the quietness and by the ocean, it felt absolutely incredible. It was so nice. But then it just kept on eating at me. Like, I'm missing Batman Forever. It still eats at me a little bit. I got to my car. I drove over to Philly. It's about an hour and a half back. I got there, went into that basement I was talking about, and I went to sleep. Slept about 4 hours. Woke up the next day, awaiting the rest of our travels into New York, and went all the way up to Maine and then into Canada. I'll tell the stories in a different video too. But thank you guys for watching. This has been an absolutely wonderful trip down memory lane for me. And sorry, it's a little bit butchered in this, but 25 minutes of talking. You try it. It's not easy. And I'm starting out with this channel, so subscribe, like, do your thing. I got plenty of stories to tell you guys. I've done so much. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next video.